who's in the box seats with us, I think it's the most famous of the Crenshaws because he was a baseball player.
That's right. One of my all-time favorite people, one of my best friends and mentors, Charlie Crenshaw.
Hi, guys.
How are you, Charlie?
Look, I'm doing fine. We're just glad to be able to talk to you guys. The older I get, the less people know. They don't even know where Clark Field is. So I just
that's true.
I have to tell them that it's Bass Auditorium, and they go, "What? Are you kidding?" So
I think it's the other Clark Field.
Very pleased to be that somebody singled me out. That's great.
I was going to say they think it's the other Clark Field, the one that was down there by Jester. So many people think
that's
where
right.
the baseball field was.
Yeah,
that's right.
They
that's
do.
Correct.
They think that.
Yeah.
I want to talk about so many things with you, Charlie. But first of all, let's start off talking about, yes, you are the more famous of the brothers, but you do have a little brother named Ben. But y'all are really close in age.
We're 15 months apart. I'm the eldest brother. Ben was born. I was born in 50, and he was born in January 11th, 52. And we grew up together, and we shared a bedroom till I went to college. Pretty much all of our young lives. Yep.
I think one of the neatest things when you talk about growing up Crenshaw is just how close you guys were. You just hit on it. But I've kind of watched you through the years as he won Masters. Now he's in developing golf courses, and how there's never been an ounce of jealousy or anything. It's just you've been his biggest supporter and biggest fan. Talk about the relationship just as it grew, and just as kids and as it grew into adulthood and in Ben's career.
Well, I'll tell you this: with being the little brother, and I was the big brother, it was extremely competitive growing up because he was always trying to outdo his big brother, and it was it was typically very, very normal growing up. You're gonna get in some fights and arguments, but we always played a lot together. We went down to we were very close to a park, West Enfield, which is down there by Mopac now, but we used to go there, and the older guys would let us play with them. We played workup, and we played a lot of touch football. And we'd go down to the park with my mother's golf clubs, and we'd get one end of the park to the other, and we'd hit drives, and we'd hit them back from each other, back and forth, and we just did a lot of that. And I think the competitiveness and just growing up together probably helped both of us athletically. When we went to Little League, I was 9 and made the major leagues, and they took Ben just because they wanted the brothers on the same team, and he was 8 on the major leagues in Little League, which was you didn't do that back then. And he ended up being a really good catcher.
Really,
he wanted to be a catcher, but when he was little, because my dad was a catcher at Baylor, and he wanted a catcher's mitt one year for Christmas, and he wanted it so bad that he was getting upset at the dinner table because Daddy wouldn't get him one. And Daddy said, "I'll tell you what, you learn how to catch, Charlie, I'll get you a catcher's mitt." So I thought that was great because I was going to just give him heck about it. And I ended up doing what Tommy Harmon did to Bill Berryhill and started throwing him everything I could in the dirt, pass balls over his head. I was having a lot of fun with it, and he was using an old glove. He couldn't even have a mitt until one day he came home and he caught me, and he kept catching me. And Daddy got home one day from work, and Ben went out to the car and said, "Get over here. You come out here and watch me do this." And he caught about 6 in a row, and I didn't hold back. I was throwing him in the dirt and everything. He caught every one of them. And so 2 days later, he showed up with a mitt. Wow. Daddy showed up with the Roosters and got a mitt. And that was a big deal for Ben. And that just shows you did you lose me?
No,
we're good.
Okay. It just shows you the kind of competitiveness he had. And then on the other side, and we're talking about Ben, he had this real gentle side about him. As a kid, he really was. He really liked birds, and he collected bird. He made bird models, and he liked to even cataloged them. And we had a flock of robins that showed up in our front yard one day, and I got a BB gun. So I decided to go out in front of Ben.
Get that warm-hearted gene right there, yeah.
So I started picking off robins, and he was right in front of me, and he went nuts. Went and got my mother, picked up a couple of dead robins and brought them into the dining room table and was crying in front of my mother. And so my mother took a shoebox and took Ben out and buried him outside side garden. And I think growing up with that gentle side of him and the competitiveness, I think it was going to help him down the road when he got into golf, because golf's one of those games where it's not like baseball. You got to keep, you can't just go off on a tantrum. You've got to keep your wits about you, and you can't grip the club tight. You've got to maintain a good swing, and I think that helped him. And that characteristic about him I think was very helpful down the road. It really was.
And when talking about your childhood, this is going to be my role today. Just say, Charlie, tell them this story. You got to tell the time you guys met Tom Kite for the first time out at UV. One of my favorite stories right here.
Well, my dad used to take us out to the club in the summertime, and Harvey said, "Look, boys, y'all can play later. You go swimming. You come back about 2 or 3 o'clock. I'll let y'all play." And so we did. We played a little early that day, and both of us had cutoffs on and tennis shoes and t-shirts. And Harvey, Harvey just glad the kids were out there. So we're finishing up 18, and we got little day bags on. I think Harvey, we had a set of 3-wood and a putter and a 3.579 is what we were playing with. And I think we probably had about 3 range balls apiece. So we're finishing up 18, and we look over at number 1, and there is this kid dressed to the nines, slacks, golf shoes, big red and white bag, and he's got a little guy, red hair, and Ben goes, "Who the heck is that guy?" I said, I don't know. He said, "Put out, we're going over there." So we ran over there, and he was by himself, and Ben just looked at him and he said, "What's your name?" He said, "Tommy Kite." I said, "Where are you from?" He said, "Well, we're from Dallas. We just moved down here. My dad works for the IRS, and we just joined the club." And I went, "Okay." We said, "Can we play with you? You going to play?" He said, "Yeah, I'm going to play a little bit." And I said, "Let's do 1, 2, 17, and 18 because it's getting late." So Tommy took a big swing first, and he had a set of adult clubs. He had Wilson clubs, brand new set. And I could see Ben over there getting steamed. He was just really getting steamed because here's this kid's got all this stuff, and here we are playing with just, simple stuff. So Tommy takes it back and completely whiffs the ball. Completely whiffs. And being kids that we just died laughing. We had died laughing. The next shot he hit was right down the middle, and we hit, and we were bigger. We were bigger than he was. We drove the ball 30 yards past him, and so we get up there, and he's too far from the green. He hits another 3-wood. He hits it right up by the green, and we hit our balls on the green. And then Tommy gets up there and hits a sand wedge. This kid's maybe 12. Hits a sand wedge about a foot. And all of a sudden we went, uh-oh, this kid's got some game. Anyway, we finished playing with him, and at dinner that night, Ben peppered my dad about, "I want a new set of clothes. I want a new bag. He's got Etonic golf shoes." And Daddy looked at both of us and said, "Y'all are getting any of that right now. Just forget it." And Ben was so mad he ran upstairs.
Oh, that's great.
Anyway, the competitiveness was on between those two guys. I mean, all the way through their careers.
From that moment on, from that first couple of holes they played, it was.
Yeah. And then, of course, Tom ended up going to McCallum, and they played against each other in every golf tournament, every Austin tournament. Both of them went to state juniors. Both of them won everything they looked at. And it was just all the way to right through Texas. Both of them competed for the medalist trophies at UT. And I think the coolest thing was the year I think it was 72 when they tied. They won the national championship and tied as medalists. And instead of the playoff, the NCAA, I guess the people who are running it, decided to give them both co-medalist honors, which I thought was really cool that they did that.
Yeah, that's neat.
Of course, my brother had to ruin Tommy's medalist by knocking in a 50-foot putt on 18.
50-foot putt on 18.
That's he did.
To get a share.
Did.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so that was cool.
So
but they're very good. They're good buddies now, and they're enjoying their retirement. And I mean, what a run for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
And 3 national title teams at Texas. Weren't they on 3? There was 3.
I think Ben, he might have. I think he did win 3.
Yeah,
but I think
yeah.
Anyway, he was medalist in 3 of them. I know that.
Mm-hmm. And Ben, Ben was medalist in 3, but I think the team won 2 or 3 also.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Had a great team back then.
Yeah.
So you go through childhood, you meet Kite, you grow up, you're playing football and baseball. Tell us when Ben made that decision. That's another good story. And for other guys who are athletes, have children growing up, they'd been having discussions about Ben going all golf, and it was kind of like, no, let's still play them all. And then one night in a summer league baseball game, what happened?
Well, I'll back up a little bit. Ben ended up playing baseball, basket. He was a really good basketball player. He was a really good point guard, by the way. And he could have played high school basketball. And then also here's golf. He tried football in junior high, and I don't think he really enjoyed the contact as much. And I think all these sports were just colliding with each other. So in summer, our coach was Frank Seal at Austin High, and he asked Ben to come up and play American Legion ball as he was going between junior high and high school. So he shows up, give him a uniform, and about the second game, we're playing at Old House Park, which, by the way, is another field that's not there anymore. But we're playing Reagan, and Reagan had a junior pitcher that ended up in the bigs, Bill Greif, who was about 17 years old, 6'4", weighed about 190, 200 pounds, and could throw. He was throwing in mid-90s back then. Wow. Real hard thrower. And so here's Ben. Ben ended up, they caught him, and first time up, we're sitting in the dugout just going, this is, we got a 15-year-old that hadn't even been to high school yet against this guy. So I think Ben might have been 14. So his first pitch is about fastball down the middle, and he looked over to us and just went, "Oh my God!" The second pitch was fastball. I think that was outside. The third pitch, another fastball, which is, he actually got a piece of it and hit it so late he hit it over our dugout into the football field, which is House Park. And then the last pitch he threw in the dirt, and Ben swung at it, and the catcher tagged him out. And Ben came over there, and we were all dying laughing at him. And he just said, "Good Lord, I can't believe this guy." And so he went home that night and said, "Daddy, I don't know if I can just hide this baseball." That Bill Greif something. And Daddy said, "Son, you probably ought to pick a sport, but whatever you do, you don't need to do it 110%. And he said, "I think I'm going to stick to golf." So he did, and he went through that summer. I went to state junior, and I think the next year he won the state junior and beat Joe Anderson, who ended up going to Texas on scholarship, and beat him in the finals, match play, which was a big deal back then. So he was off and running by then. That's He attributes Bill Gright to making that decision. He does.
That's pretty good stuff.
Meanwhile, you're the baseball star. Tell us how you picked going to
Yes.
UT, especially with your dad having Baylor connections.
Well, before I tell you that, we ended up beating Bill Grife twice my junior year and won the district championship. We played them twice, and our Austin High beat him. We had Danny Covert on that. We had a really good team that year with some good pitchers, and we were very happy to get by Grife, not once but twice. But anyway, I got the Austin High. I was awarded all district first team 2 years in a row on baseball team. I got second team quarterback my senior year football team. We got beat by Reagan twice. That was when Reagan won state championship back to back.
Mm-hmm.
They beat us 2 years in a row for district championship both times. Back then there was no seeding, there was no tournament, no big region. Whoever won the district went. So that was it. Well, at my junior year, we were 9-1. We were ranked second or third in the state when Reagan beat us. And it was good. We had a really good team back then. But so anyway, at the end of my baseball career at Austin High, I got a few offers, but I got a call from Coach Gustafson, and he offered me a full scholarship, and it took me about 2 seconds to say, yeah, I'm coming. And my dad I hung up the phone, and my dad kind of wanted me to go to Baylor because I got an offer from Baylor, and he goes, son, you may go over there and you may never play over there. They got a pretty good program over there. and Dad, I just said, Daddy, I want to go where I can win. If I sit on the bench over there and I'm winning, I'm going to be happy. I don't want to go to Baylor because Baylor back then Baylor had their program was not in good shape. And I just said, no, I'm not doing that. So I went. Coach Gus was nice enough to offer me a scholarship. And years later, Coach Gus told me that when that went down, he said Royal came to him and said, if you get the Crenshaw kid on the baseball team, give him a scholarship, you're probably going to get his brother. I will get his brother in golf. And that's exactly what happened. so pretty good play by Royal.
Yeah.
And that's, Austin was pretty unique because you guys grew up with the Campbell brothers, spent a lot of days at Muni playing. Talk about that nucleus of guys. So it wasn't just you, the Crenshaw, you had the Campbells, you had the Royals kids, you had it was a small town. Austin was still a small town back then.
Well, it all goes back to my dad was a law partner with Wally Scott, who was on the 41 UT team when DX Bible was the coach, and Wally ended up with a law degree and ended up practicing law in front of the Railroad Commission, oil and gas, and his biggest client was Brandon Root, which had just gotten a contract at Fort Clark Springs in Brackenridge to scuttle it. It was a cavalry force after the war. And Wally said, look, you guys are going to turn this into some recreational executive retreat. So I would like to take the coaches, assistant coaches, and their families for a week right before football season, kind of let them relax before this stuff started. And they agreed to do that. So at that time, Wally invited my dad on that trip. It was goes back to not like 1960, 61. I was 10, Ben was like 8 or 9. So we got invited to go out there, and we had the whole fort. That was back when they were starting to film the Alamo, which was in Brackenridge, which is 20 miles away from there. So we ended up going on hay rides and all kind of neat stuff. And that's where I met the Campbells. When we got there to the fort, we were already there, and they pulled up in the car. Coach Campbell driving, and Miss Campbell's in and the boys, Rusty, Mike, and Tom, were in the back seat. And I never seen them before. And they get out of the car, and Miss Campbell grabs little Rusty by the ear and said, "You get over here." And she told Mike and Tom, were twins, told one of them to go to one end of the fort and one of them go to the other end of the fort because they're fighting the whole way down there. So that's how I met the Campbells. And we became close friends
to this day.
To this day. I was with Tom and Mike yesterday. Actually, we were met at a guy's ranch in Weimar, and Mike's suffering from Parkinsonism and is not doing well. But we got a chance to see him. But that's we started going every year to that thing, and we've known each other forever. Yeah.
And then a lot of people don't know that your dad ended up playing football and baseball at Baylor, but he started out, he was Coach Bryant, Bear Bryant's roommate, I believe, at Alabama. Is that correct?
Dad's from Alabama, and he went to Alabama his freshman year, was a fraternity brother with Bear Bryant at Sigma Nu. Wow. And then he made the squad. Daddy made the squad as a punter, and Bryant was on the football team, and Daddy got ill at the end of his first year, and they thought he had tuberculosis, and they made him stay out a year. My uncle Alan, who's Daddy's younger brother, was already out at Baylor, and he was going through medical school. He's going to be a doctor. So he convinced my dad when he got well. He said, "Why don't you just come on out here, start over?" And it was great out here. So Daddy ended up going to Baylor and got his law degree and ended up in Houston. And that's where he met my mother. And then Daddy went to college with Price Daniel, who was governor, got to be governor later. And he appointed my dad in the Attorney General's office. And then we moved up to Austin. And there we are. We've been here ever since. Wow. So yeah. You bet. There we are.
What a great story how the Crenshaws got to Austin.
Let me tell you one funny story about when Bear Bryant, when we started the Wishbone, Bear Bryant called Coach Royal and said, I need to come over there and look at this Wishbone. Would you mind if we did that? He said, Coach Royal said, fine, invited him over. So Bryant came over for a game, and they put him in the press box, kind of in the right side of it, and put him by himself, maybe one other guy from Alabama, and Daddy is with Wally Scott, and Wally goes, you know that Coach Bryant is here and in the press box, and Daddy goes, no, I didn't know that. And he goes, you want to go meet him? And Daddy goes, well, I know him. And Wally goes, you don't know him. You don't know him from Boo. What are you talking about? So he said, let's go. So they went over to the press box, and they introduced him. And Bear looked at my dad and went, hey, Charlie, how you doing? How you been? In front of Wally. Wally about had a cow. He said, I thought you were kidding me.
That's right.
Yeah. And that was shortly thereafter, I think Alabama converted over to the Wishbone for a while. They did. So, there you go. That's a good story.
You get to the UT baseball team, and they put you out in the outfield where you have to deal with that cliff out there. And in scrimmages, you have to go up against pitchers like Hooten. How'd you survive?
Well, the cliff was easy compared to Bert Hooten. I'll tell you that. we actually practiced that, the whole strategy, usually about 20 minutes, maybe 2-3 times a week.
Really?
Where we put people, Gus would interchange us in different positions in the outfield, and it was pretty intricate deal about the ball's going to stick up there, or the ball's going to come down, or the ball's going to hit the cliff and go sideways. So we had all these people coming out and backing up, and so we're doing all that, and we ended up, the idea was to let the guy have a double, extend him to a double, but no further. And it worked pretty good, because the other teams would come over there, and we had a ball up there, we hit Kareem, and we're just we're just running like a pinball machine. They didn't know what to do about it. So, but Bert, and well, my freshman year we had Bert and James Street was on that, and then Larry Hardy, and then Mike Beard, and Street's the only one that didn't go to the pros. All the three of those guys went to the big show. They all went to the big show.
Yeah.
So yeah, as a freshman, I ended up basically what I did with Hooten was choke up and try to get close to the plate, and maybe he'd hit me. He was that good, and I mean, his try to get a piece of the ball with him. It was that knuckle curve he had was just wicked, and he didn't mess with it much. And it's every once in a while he'd slip in a fastball, and if you could see that coming, you might be able to hit it. But he was so accurate. I mean, I'm not kidding. There was his sophomore year, his junior year and my sophomore year. I started my sophomore year.
Yeah. And
there was a couple of games where I never had a ball hit to me in the outfield.
Really?
Just run in and run out.
Wow.
Games lasted under 2 hours because he'd just get up there and throw it. I mean, just get up there and throw it and just 3 up, 3 down, would go in. Might get a man on base. He never walked anybody. Unbelievable. The guy's unbelievable. Street was a great pitcher. Had a great curveball and a really good fastball. And he, once again, another guy that was very accurate. He threw strikes. And I was on the team when he went up to Texas Tech and a 7-inning perfect game. He did that. And Hardy was a hard thrower. We went to Omaha that year and we finished third. Harmon was the catcher, and Harmon is a great catcher and great arm, and good hitter, and had total control over the field. That nobody messed with Tommy. I think Tommy called all the signals, and then we were blessed with a guy named Bill Berryhill. The next year came out of Bartlesville, Oklahoma. Was a great catcher, and he went into Gus's office after his sophomore year and told him he's quitting. And he said, Gus about had a cow. I said, "What do you mean you're quitting?" He said, I got to accept it into medical school. I'm going to be a doctor. And I can't do both. I've got a lot of work to do. And he is an orthopedic surgeon in Waco to this day, does carpal tunnel surgery. Great guy, good friend of mine. Anyway,
Catfish was on those teams, the first baseman.
Say again?
Catfish.
Oh, John Langerhans, Catfish?
Yeah.
Catfish. Catfish, the right field wall at Clark Field was 301. And Catfish was a left-handed hitter and could hit it a long way. And he had a bunch of them. He was a really good athlete, and actually he was a good pitcher. He came out of South San. Gus brought him up from South San. He could have pitched. He actually did pitch a couple of relief games, but he was a good pitcher. And I think he made All-America at least twice. Yeah.
Tell us this story. I think it was your freshman year. Tell that story where your Street used to sit on top of the dugout at Clark Field, and Gus throws you in the pinch hit in a money situation, and like you hadn't had that many at bats at that point. And Street,
I never had an at bat. That was my first at bat.
Okay. Yeah,
Gus,
that story.
I think I pinch hit for Hooten. Actually, we were in a tight game, and Gus said, "Crenshaw, get up there. If this next guy walks, you're going to hit for Hooten." And the guy walked and loaded the bases. And wait a minute. No, there was 2 men on base. So I get up there, and I'm on the on-deck circle, and Street had pitched the day before. And wait a minute. He pitched. This is okay, my synapses aren't working. This is the second. Yeah, this is the second game with doubleheader. We used to play doubleheaders. So Street had pitched the first game, so he's sitting on top of the dugout right by the bat rack. And he liked to do that. I think he was probably looking at the girls up in the stands, probably. But he looked at me, and I'm about to either throw up or completely just wet my pants. And Street looks at me and says, "Hey, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, I think I'm going to get up there and hit." And he went, "Look, do this. The guy's got to come to you. If there's 2 men on base, if he's got to come to you and pitch to you, because if you walk, you load the bases and just get a good pitch to hit." So I got up there, and of course Gus is always giving us the take sign until we get a strike.
Oh yeah.
That's coming. So I first pitch right down the pipe. So I back out. Next pitch was outside. Third pitch was on the corner, and I swing at it and hit the ball straight down the right field line, goes past the first baseman, and I end up on third base with a triple.
Oh, wow.
First at bat.
You get the game winner right there.
Nice.
Anyway, so I'll tell you the other side of the story. So I'm in the paper the next morning. These freshmen hits triple. So Gus starts me in double hitter next day. So I go 2 for 4 in the first game. So I'm looking pretty good. So the last game, Charlie struck out 3 straight times, and that's the last time I saw the field until we got to Omaha. And a pinch hit up there. And
my!
I think I ended up 12 at bats, and I think I had 4 hits. So that didn't count because I didn't have enough at bats. But that was a lot of fun. That was fun to get that done, especially against Oklahoma.
I want to know how did the Crenshaw family handle things in June of '72, June of '73, when you're in Omaha playing in the College World Series both years, and Ben is, I think, one year was in Oklahoma and another year was in Florida playing for the national championship in golf. What did y'all do during that?
That's a great question.
Well, Daddy went to Omaha. He was always in Omaha. I mean, and Ben was all over the place. So, Daddy was in Omaha, but Daddy managed to go. I'll tell you, we played TCU. Which year did we go? We played TCU once or twice up in Fort Worth, and it was always during the same week as the Colonial. And Ben got invited as an amateur playing the Colonial. So Daddy ended up going to both in Fort Worth. Got to go to Fort Worth Colonial and TCU game. So that was nice. He got to do that, but he managed to. My dad used to sit behind home plate with none other than Bib Falk. He sat with Bib Falk.
Wow.
Which was really intimidating for me, because you'd go up the plate and look back there, and there's both of them looking at me, and they both knew that I was going to take till I get a strike. And Bib hated that. Bib did not like that. Neither did my dad. So they sure enough, the ball come in there, and I look back at both of them, and they both have their head down and shaking their head, going, "There it is again."
Yeah.
So I'm having to look there, and I'm having to look over at Gus, and I guess I'm gonna have to do what Gus tells me. So that was very intimidating, seeing Bib Falk and my dad back there. That was something else. Bib was great. He actually took me down to the cage. He used to show up at practice, and Gus let him go down there because he was a great instructor, and he cussed a lot. And he'd say, "Son, if you want to hit this blankety blank baseball and play with this blankety blank team, you're going to have to learn to hit the right field." So he'd get us in there and just ball after ball, and he was always great about it. And he taught me how to hit the right field. He did. Which back then, it being a Clark Field, you ain't gonna hit the ball out of that place unless you hit it just a giant shot. Best place to hit the right field in the hole. So,
what was the best part of your game?
I was a good hitter. I was a doubles hitter. My best day my best days Longhorn. Best weekend was with A&M in '71. I went 7 for 13 and had 5 doubles.
Wow.
And I was very, very impactful beating those guys.
Yeah.
Was that here? Or was that in the old day? They did the split series.
That was in College Station underneath Kyle Field. They had the corps and the band out there at batting practice. It was unbelievable. That was a great weekend for me.
Wow.
I had a good arm from the outfield, and they put me more in right field. I played center and left, but mostly in right. And I wasn't the swiftest guy on the team, but we had a great coach, Bill Bethea. Bill Bethea was probably one of the best instructors, and he spent a lot of time with all the outfielders on just basic technique,
footwork,
get jump on the ball, how to take steps first, and also they're doing some things today a little differently than we did, and I don't know whether but I think it's because they're on artificial turf and we were on grass. But we would make sure that we would run up on a baseball if we had a play at the plate, back up on a fly ball, run up on it and throw it. Always catch the ball on our throwing side if we can. And that play those Oklahoma guys messed up with it hit each other the last weekend.
Yeah.
On Sunday, those guys collided and the ball. Well, that would have never happened at Texas.
Wow.
We practiced that. They would hit tweeners to us, and they wouldn't give it to hell. We ran at each other a lot. The center fielders got the call on that.
Yeah,
that's right. Those guys just screwed up, and that was a momentum changer last weekend. But I don't remember that ever happening.
Lohodo hit that. Yeah, they botched that, and that led to a huge inning for us.
That sure did. And sure if they'd have caught that ball, that would have hurt. That would have hurt. Anyway, I credit Coach Bethea for teaching us a lot of techniques that helped us in the outfield. I really liked that outfield was a lot of fun for me. It was great. So
Mr. Pinnock also, I think he said this in one of his books that you had some talent in golf, and if you'd have chosen golf, that you may have been able to play on tour too. How much of that is true? How good a golfer were you in your prime? I know you're a very good player, but how good were you back then, and could you have gone golf?
I never really developed into a good golfer. I've always had a pretty good swing. Harvey said I had a really good swing, but I don't think I had the patience for. I mean, I'd go out there and play with Ben as a kid, and this is no kid. Ben would be in the fairway, and I'd be over there in the rough, and we only had 2 or 3 balls between us. And so I'm looking and hunting for that ball, and Ben goes, "We got to go." And I said, "Well, come over and help me." He goes, "I'm not helping you do that. Just let's go." And I said, "Well, I only got 1 ball left." So then we get in a fight. I'd go into his bag and steal a ball from him and get mad at him. And I just when he got to be about 13 or 14, he was doing crazy stuff. Like he made 2 hole-in-ones in 3 days when he was about 12, ended up in Sports Illustrated. And I just said, I think I'm going to stick to baseball and football. This kid's he's kicking my tail. So that was that. And I just kind of just played for fun. When I moved back to Austin in '87 and bought a company, I decided if I'm gonna go out and play, I'm gonna really dig that. So I was out there 3 days a week and practicing twice, and I got my game. I think I got my game down to about a 3 handicap after about 6 months, and played that way for a couple of years. But it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of time, and with a brother like Ben Crenshaw, you just kind of go, "Well, I think I'm going to let him do that." True story.
And what was that like? And I bragged on you a while ago on how good and supportive you've always been, his biggest fan. What was that? So, Ben turns pro out of college. You can tell that story too. His first pro tournament, he wins. But what was his rise like? What was it like being his brother or being a family member and watching him evolve into the great player he became?
Well, there was a long time period that we were apart when he became a pro. I moved to Dallas. Now I ended up moving out to the West Coast, where I took a job out there, and there would be long periods of time where I wouldn't see him or talk to him. But when we got together, we'd always try to make plans to see one another. Like, he would come out to the LA. It used to be the LA Open at Riviera, still Riviera. So he'd give me tickets, and I'd go out there. And then the U.S. Open was at Pebble Beach, I think in 80 or 81. And I went up there, and he got his tickets. And one time in Hawaii, I was in Hawaii and went to the Hawaiian Open, and had dinner. I had dinner with Lanny Watkins and George Burns and Ben and me at a steak joint. And so we always had a gathering, got together, and he always took care of his brother and was just very, very great about it. And he's always gracious. And of course his first wife, Polly, was a wonderful gal, and we were close to her and everything. And then he got divorced, and then his second wife, Julie, then they had started having kids. And I moved back to Austin in 87. And then we started seeing each other a bunch. And then my dad was still here. So we were starting to have a lot of family gatherings. And I started going I was living in Dallas in 84 when he won the first Masters and didn't get to go. And then 87, I got to go up there and watch him do that. It just became very close again. And I'd say our relationship now is as close as it ever was. And we talk a whole lot. And we always keep it light. We joke around. We don't, nothing big, nothing, we just have fun. And now that he's retired, he's a lot of fun. he's out there just like everybody else. And we played a couple of weeks ago, and he's just great. He's just awesome. So he is what he is. I don't know if y'all have met him. I guess he's pretty much the same guy. Yeah. I'm amazed at how grounded he is. He, after winning all these tournaments and Masters twice. I mean, the guy's in the Golf Hall of Fame, and he just got the Donald Ross Award for golf course architecture this year. I don't know if you know that. He and Bill Coore got that award. And
they have like 6 of the world's top golf courses, or some 6 of the top 20 or something. Well,
like that. They had a new countdown with that top 30. I think, Rick, you better help me here. I think it was top 30 out of maybe since 1950 or something. Wow. And Ben's got 8 of them in there. Eight. And number 1 was Sandhills in Nebraska. So he's done. He absolutely loves doing that. And I've been with him on several trips where I got to watch them actually go through designing courses and doing routing holes, and it's really fun. I mean, his partner Bill Coore, those guys are amazing. They've been great partners, and you talk about working together. It's very unusual to see 2 guys be that close together and work together. It's really fun to watch them. So he's had a great.
Go ahead. 2015, the Masters there. It was Ben's final run, and you talk about how the family had come together over the last decade or so, and you guys were all there in that final embrace on the 18th. I've still got photos of it. Took them for you off the television. I know you have photos. How emotional was that?
That was awesome. It was just kind of the final run, and they don't. Augusta doesn't treat a lot of the players that way. They love being out there. And the last round on the back 9, they started not posting his score on each hole. They just left it blank out of respect for him, because it was, and he was getting standing ovations on every hole, and it was just a great send off for him. And he goes back he's back there now. He's a master ceremonies of the Champions Dinner, and which was he was invited to do that by one Byron Nelson, who was the master ceremonies, and called Ben and said, Ben, we need a Texan. I need a Texan to do that. And I want you to do that. Would you mind doing that? Ben goes, wow, yeah, I'll be glad to do that. So he's the MC of that. And I was happy to see Tom Watson get in there and hit the ceremonial first shot with Player and Nicholas. I think that's great. Tom Watson's a good guy, great guy.
I know you guys both, you and Ben, are involved with Save Muni. So talk a little bit about that.
Well, without going into a lot of detail, when this thing came out, when the Regents, this is, I don't know, heck, this has probably been damn near a decade, probably, but maybe more than that. But they came out and decided that they were going to develop Muni, the Brackenridge track, which Muni's part of it. It's the biggest piece. But Ben decided, since we grew up on that course, we grew up 2 blocks from that course and played tons and tons of rounds of golf as kids, that we got to save this thing. And to Ben's credit, he's stayed with it, and it's been a struggle, because the UT's wanting to develop, and the city of Austin really doesn't know what to do with it. And it's become politically a football over there. And so right now, the state of it is that we're trying to raise money to be able to acquire Muni, and also put up a sustaining fund to sustain the maintenance and preservation of the course, and keep it a public course. They don't want to make it privatize it. They want the public to be able to come and play it at a reasonable price. So that's a heavy lift, and it's been through the legislature once. It was close to be. They had a bill in there to move the property over to the Parks and Wildlife, which died. I think it died in the House. So the university has decided that they wouldn't sell it to us, but now it's about raising money, and the course has gotten to be the course needs maintenance. So they've been able to take some funds out of that Muni Conservancy and be able to repair some of those oak trees out there are gorgeous, but they're in desperate need of maintaining and pruning. So they're doing some of that, and Ben has designed to restore the golf course to what it originally is. The same kind of principle he did. A lot of people, Ben redid Pinehurst No. 2 several years ago, and they restored it. So it's kind of the same thing, and they want to build it. They want to rebuild a clubhouse, and they not a big one, but a nice clubhouse, and make the other one kind of a museum. So the plan's there, and there are people coming around. There's some people coming around. There's some momentum and some genuine interest in it. So they just had a concert at the ACL where I had Ray Benson and some other people. I think they raised $800,000, which is a lot of money. They need a lot more money. They need a lot more money. So my optimism is grown in the last year. There's some people coming around with that may really help us. So let's cross our fingers and see. But I'm for one. I've told people that in my life, most of my fields that I played on are gone.
Yeah.
And I just hate to see these urban spaces go away for development. I mean, you have a green space over there that's almost pastoral, and if that buffer goes away, that's going to change the face of that whole neighborhood over there. And I don't know if they realize it. So some of them don't. But.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how weird it is, the fact that so much has changed for you around Austin over the last 50, 60 years. And House Park, that field isn't there anymore. The baseball field isn't there. Clark Field's not there anymore. That the baseball field that used to be on Town Lake isn't there anymore. There's so much has changed. Is that?
It's sad. Well, it's sad. It's very sad. I mean, I know progress. You got to. There's changes that is always there. I mean, some of the restaurants that we went to as kids are iconic that are gone. I mean, the Frisco, El Gallo, La Tapatia, they're gone, and there's more of them coming. And then we hear about Dirty Martin's.
Yeah,
that thing. We may get involved in that one. That's a big bond election. I don't know about stopping that one. Maybe they'll move somewhere, but that hurt. That was one of my regular spots. So and you see these skyscrapers going up, and at one time I think that Lady Bird Johnson was adamant about being able to see the Capitol and see the tower from the downtown area.
Yep.
And I don't know if you can see that anymore. I don't. They got 50, 60 story towers going up. So that has really changed the downtown area. So and the construction down there is to the point where it's hard to get around. So as y'all know,
not the same old.
No.
Which is another one of your great childhood stories. The day the guy was shooting from the tower, Whitman was shooting from the tower, you biked all the way to the football stadium, and the second level wasn't there yet. Wasn't even close to be. It wasn't even thought about. And you climbed up and were at the top, what's now the first level, but you were peering over the edge, looking toward the tower.
There was no upper deck.
Yes.
On the west side. I was probably 14 or 15. Yeah. And I had a friend of mine that just had his driver's license, and we were feeling pretty good. So we went to Barton Springs. We were sitting there at Barton Springs, and we were gazing over at what, and on the radio, there's a sniper on the tower.
I hate to laugh, but that's
sniper
crazy.
On the tower. So in our great wisdom of being adolescents, we fired up the car. By the way, the guy
had to go that way.
Guy had a brand new GTO. A brand new GTO. That's the other reason. We were sporting around in this beautiful car. So we went screaming over to the stadium, and we just said, "Let's go to the stadium. We'll probably be able to see him up there." And sure enough, we ran up the stairs, parked the car, ran up the stadium, look at the top, and watched the guy for about 40 minutes. You could see the puffs of smoke.
Oh my God!
You could hear the shots. You could hear the ricochets off of the tower. There was just a horde of bullets from the bottom, and there was an airplane, a little Cessna that I think they took a guy up there, the sniper up there, to try to shoot him. And he dang near shot the airplane down. So that didn't work. So then all of a sudden everything got quiet about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It just stopped. And I found out later that 2 Austin hero police officers went up there and took care of me. And that was it. And I'll tell you the really interesting thing about that, which I have a sister, Bonnie, who was actually going to college at UT in summer school, getting her MBA. And by the way, she was the only one in our family that got an MBA. Ben and I didn't even know how to pronounce MBA. But Bonnie was getting doing library science to get her MBA, and she was always walking across underneath the tower by those big flags at noon and decided to catch a ride with another person that didn't go over there that morning.
Wow.
And if she'd have done that, she might have been a casualty because there were 2 or 3 people that were shot right there underneath those flags. And man, when I got home, I have no idea. She was in the living room with my mother just sobbing like, what a coincidence that happened. She dodged all that. So
yeah.
I had two not classmates, but 2 people 2 grades above me, Claudia Rutt and Sontag, that were engaged and were down on Guadalupe and looking for engagement rings, and he shot both of them. He shot both of them. So,
wow.
Yeah. So anyway, I got to tell that story in a history class when I went back to school. I went back to school in 2011, and I had to take an upper division history class, and we had a big session about guns and the Second Amendment, and our professor started talking about guns on campus, and he started talking about Charles Whitman, and I had to raise my hand, and I said, well, I lived through that. So all these kids are sitting there, these kids are 19, 20 years old, and they looked at me like, are you kidding me? So I got to tell them firsthand about that story, and that was a lot of fun doing that. That was a lot of fun doing that. Yeah.
And then a lot of people don't know that you went back. That's why you were back at school. You went back to finish your degree. You'd promised your mom. You'd gotten out of school, had a couple of class or semester or 2 left, decided not to go back, started the business. And then years later, after you retire, sell the business, you go back and finish your degree.
It was Spanish.
It's Spanish, always Spanish at Texas. It's
never,
always Spanish.
Just kind of never, I got one. I think I got one semester out of the way, but I went back and they said you could take that at ACC, and they came out with a nice path for me to graduate. And I graduated. It took me a year, but I went and took Spanish all over again, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and did it all at ACC. And when you sit at the front of the class and you do your homework,
it's a lot easier.
You end up making pretty good grades.
That's right. You should have done that.
Anyway, I got out of there, and here's another. When I graduated and walked across, I did it at Bass Auditorium, the history department, and when I got in there, they sat me in the front row in the middle with my niece, Ben's oldest daughter, Catherine. She's graduating, and so the dean of the history department called me out and said, I want everybody to know that this used to be an old baseball field, which Charlie played on right here at Bass Auditorium. I thought that was really cool that he did that. And asked me to stand up. Yeah. And of course, everybody looked around going, you got to be kidding me. This guy's 60 years old graduating. And that was nice.
I remember the party back at Ben's house that night. That was awesome.
Yeah,
that was a
great party.
You're probably sitting right around where home plate was, as I recall, right about that area. That's great.
That's right. That's right. And a few years later, when Connie showed up and he started the Bevo beat and all that's the Bevos, and there's a concession for the letter winners that's literally on Bass Auditorium grounds that you go in there. So the first time I went in there, I realized that I'm standing in right field.
That's right.
Literally. So I was this young big tackle who's an alumni. I introduced myself and I couldn't help it. I said, do you understand that I'm standing where I used to play baseball here? He went, what are you talking about? I told him that. He didn't believe me. He said, no, this is Bass. There was never been a baseball field here.
Oh, man.
And all of a sudden I felt like I was 95 years old. So I immediately went and got another drink, and I said, really nice to meet you. I didn't, you know, so he was bigger than me, so I just walked off. So, there you go. There you go.
Oh, Charlie Crenshaw, you have so many stories. I think you need to write a book.
Well, I don't know if anybody can read it, but I appreciate this. I appreciate the appreciation about that. Yeah, I probably could. Ben's written 2 books, really great books. One of them. Do you know? Well, Melanie Hauser, who's a writer in Houston, she helped write his books, and a lot of those stories are in there already. And yeah, and so he probably gets a better readership than I ever would.
No, I don't know about that.
Yeah, the Carl Jackson book. Yeah, that's a beautiful.
Yeah, that 2 Roads to Augusta. That's yeah.
2 Roads to Augusta.
Yeah, that's a big book. That's a great book, by the way. Especially, it's got a really good picture of me in there.
That's what matters, right?
Older
brothers come first.
I believe Carl didn't Ben play in the par 3 on Wednesday. The par 3.
Yeah,
yeah. Carl came and caddied for him. Just for the par 3 contest.
This year?
Yes.
Oh, that's great. I didn't know that. Awesome.
Yeah. So I was just reading that. So
how about that?
Carl, in 2015, when Ben's last ran, I don't think Carl looked at Ben and said, I can't go. I can't do it. I think he'd been having some health concerns and wasn't on the bag. I think he actually might have been on the bag for 1 hole. But that's really nice to hear that he was on. He was on the back of the par 3. That's great. That's awesome.
I'll double check that, but I was just reading that, so I thought I'd pretty much.
Excellent.
Sure.
I'll ask him. I'll ask Ben that. Yeah, that would be a natural thing if Carl could do it. Sure, you bet. Yeah,
Charlie, you've told some great stories, and we appreciate it. Thank you for being in the box seats with us today.
Well, thank you guys so much for letting me share this with you. That's very nice y'all do that. So we'll keep trucking.
The older and more famous in our minds, Crenshaw. Thank you, Charlie Crenshaw.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you, Charlie.